In 2025, America's housing crisis has exploded into a full-blown emergency. In cities like New York, rents have surged past $4,600 a month, while in San Diego and San Francisco, prices top $3,300 a month, and rising fast. Over 11 million renters now spend more than 50% of their income just to keep a roof over their heads. Evictions are surging, and homelessness has skyrocketed, with over 653,000 people nationwide living without stable shelter, the highest in U.S. history. From tent-lined sidewalks to luxury high-rises, the contrast is shocking. These are the top 10 U.S. cities where rents are exploding and homelessness is out of control. Number 10. Chicago, Illinois. Once known for its robust middle-class neighborhoods and affordable flats in the Windy City, Chicago is now a textbook example of urban housing strain in 2025. While the city still offers iconic skylines and vibrant cultural life, many residents are finding it harder than ever to afford a decent place to live. The median rent for a one-bedroom apartment has crossed $2,100, rising nearly 18% in just 2 years. What's even more alarming is that wages have not kept pace. Household incomes have increased only about 6 to 7% in the same time frame, making the rent-to-income ratio dangerously high. For many working families, especially in South and West Side communities, over 50% of their income now goes toward rent. That imbalance has sparked a brutal side effect, a surge in homelessness that's reaching levels Chicago hasn't seen in decades. Estimates show over 68,000 people in Cook County lack stable housing, and about 14,000 of those are unsheltered. Tent encampments have become more visible in areas like Lower Wacker Drive and under Lakeshore Drive viaducts. The city's emergency shelters are routinely at full capacity, often turning people away. Contributing factors include high eviction rates, the end of pandemic-era rental assistance programs, and rapidly gentrifying neighborhoods pushing out long-term renters. Even middle-income earners are being squeezed. Neighborhoods like Logan Square and Pilsen, once bastions of working-class affordability, are now saturated with luxury apartments and higher property taxes, causing longtime residents to leave. As demand for rentals remains high, landlords are increasingly pricing out tenants in favor of wealthier newcomers. This has triggered what many experts call a silent exodus of native Chicagoans to cheaper suburbs or out of state altogether. Chicago is trying to respond with mixed results: affordable housing initiatives, rent control discussions, and shelter expansions. But the speed of the crisis continues to outpace these efforts. With both rent and homelessness climbing, Chicago now stands as a stark warning for other cities. Without aggressive policy action, even historically affordable cities can spiral into housing despair. And for many residents, the dream of living in Chicago is slowly turning into a daily struggle for survival. Number 9. Newark, New Jersey. Newark, once a beacon of industrial strength, is now grappling with a modern-day crisis: skyrocketing rents and rising homelessness. Located just 10 miles from Manhattan, Newark has long served as a more affordable refuge for those priced out of New York City. But that affordability gap is closing fast. In 2025, the average rent in Newark has surged to $2,240 per month, marking a jump of over 20% in just 2 years. This surge is largely driven by spillover demand from NYC and an influx of remote workers seeking cheaper alternatives near major metros. However, Newark's aging housing stock hasn't kept pace with demand. More than 60% of renters are cost-burdened, meaning they spend over 30% of their income on rent. Many longtime residents, especially in neighborhoods like the Ironbound and Central Ward, are being pushed out by rent hikes and gentrification. Meanwhile, luxury developments aimed at higher-income commuters are rising fast while affordable units dwindle. The homelessness crisis reflects this tension. Rough estimates suggest over 3,500 people in Essex County are homeless, and shelters are overwhelmed. Families with children are particularly vulnerable, with many couch surfing or sleeping in cars. The eviction rate has also spiked post-pandemic as rental assistance programs dried up. Despite several community efforts and city-backed affordable housing mandates, Newark is still struggling to balance growth with equity. Developers often bypass affordability requirements through legal loopholes, and enforcement remains inconsistent. While Newark offers excellent transit access and is building a reputation as a cultural hub, the benefits are increasingly unreachable for the city's working class. Unless stronger tenant protections and housing affordability strategies are enforced, Newark could follow the same trajectory as Brooklyn, once affordable, now out of reach. For now, Newark stands as a city under pressure, caught between regional demand and a shrinking safety net. Number 8. San Jose, California. San Jose, the capital of Silicon Valley, is often associated with tech wealth and innovation. But behind the corporate campuses and billion-dollar IPOs lies a housing market that's pushed everyday people to the brink. In 2025, the average rent in San Jose has climbed past $3,130 per month, making it one of the most expensive rental markets in the country. That figure is staggering. When you consider the median household income, though high at around $125,000, it still isn't enough for many families to comfortably afford rent, especially after taxes, healthcare, and childcare. Rising rents have created a brutal squeeze on middle-class workers, particularly those not employed in tech. Teachers, nurses, and service industry employees are increasingly unable to live where they work. Many have resorted to commuting from distant towns like Gilroy or Tracy, adding hours to their day just to survive. Even tech workers are doubling up in shared apartments or paying over 40% of their income on rent. This affordability crisis is fueling a growing homeless population. San Jose and Santa Clara County now report over 10,000 unhoused individuals, many of whom live in tent communities along the Guadalupe River or in parked RVs near office parks. With limited shelter capacity and high property values, the city faces immense challenges in creating affordable housing fast enough to meet demand. Moreover, gentrification has displaced entire neighborhoods. Areas like East San Jose have seen dramatic rent hikes, with many Latino families pushed out of long-established communities. Meanwhile, developers continue to focus on market-rate units, as affordable housing remains less profitable. City leaders have tried to intervene with rent caps and subsidized housing initiatives, but these efforts are often too slow to match the market's volatility. Until meaningful zoning reform and large-scale affordable housing investments materialize, San Jose remains a tale of two cities, one thriving in innovation, the other struggling just to stay housed. Number 7. Seattle, Washington. Seattle, once known for its rainy skies and grunge roots, is now emblematic of America's urban housing crisis. With tech giants like Amazon and Microsoft anchoring the region, the city has experienced rapid economic growth, but that prosperity hasn't been evenly distributed. In 2025, the median rent in Seattle sits at $2,625, up nearly 25% since 2020. For a one-bedroom apartment, it's not uncommon to see listings pushing past $2,800, especially in neighborhoods like Capitol Hill, Ballard, and South Lake Union. The rent surge has outpaced wage growth for everyone outside the tech bubble. Service workers, municipal employees, and even young professionals are being priced out. Over 45,000 households in Seattle now spend more than half their income on rent, placing them at severe risk of housing instability. For those who fall through the cracks, the results are visible all across the city. Tent encampments under freeways, RVs lining city streets, and makeshift shelters in parks. Seattle's homeless population is one of the largest per capita in the U.S., with more than 14,000 unhoused people in King County, of which over 60% are unsheltered. The crisis has escalated despite hundreds of millions of dollars in public spending. Drug addiction, mental health issues, and eviction are key drivers, but the unaffordable housing market is the primary catalyst. Meanwhile, attempts to build more housing often stall due to local resistance and strict zoning laws. Many single-family neighborhoods still oppose density, limiting the number of new, affordable units that can be built. Rent control is also politically divisive, creating policy gridlock while thousands remain without shelter. Seattle's challenge is not just about affordability, it's about systemic barriers to inclusive growth. Without aggressive policy changes, the city risks becoming a place only the affluent can afford to call home, while thousands struggle just to survive beneath its booming skyline. Number 6. San Diego, California. San Diego might boast some of the most beautiful coastlines and perfect year-round weather in the U.S., but that sunny reputation comes with a storm cloud of housing instability. As of 2025, median rent in San Diego has soared past $3,100 per month, marking a 22% increase over the past 2 years. Even modest one-bedroom units in older neighborhoods are now going for over $2,500. That's simply unaffordable for many residents, especially those working in hospitality, healthcare, or education, the very sectors that keep the city running. Despite being a military hub and tourist magnet, San Diego's housing market is under immense pressure. Home building has lagged behind population growth for over a decade, and restrictive zoning laws have left many neighborhoods frozen in time while demand explodes. Investors have also capitalized on the city's appeal, snatching up properties to convert into high-rent Airbnbs or vacation homes. That further shrinks the rental stock for locals. This shortage has fueled a sharp increase in homelessness. As of 2025, over 10,000 people are experiencing homelessness in San Diego County, with many forced to live in tents, cars, or makeshift encampments. The downtown area, particularly near East Village and Barrio Logan, now has entire blocks filled with unhoused individuals. While the city has opened more shelters and transitional housing units, the demand far outweighs supply. Eviction rates are climbing too, particularly in lower-income areas like City Heights and Cholas View. Many tenants face sudden rent hikes of 30% or more, with little legal protection. For residents already stretched thin, even one unexpected bill or illness can trigger displacement. San Diego is a case study in what happens when beauty and desirability collide with poor housing policy. Without bold reform, the city risks losing the very workers and families who give it life, leaving behind a postcard-perfect skyline, but an empty promise of paradise. Number 5. Boston, Massachusetts. Boston may be rich in American history, innovation, and world-class culture, but in 2025, it's also rich in unaffordability. This New England gem has seen rents spiral to an average of $3,495 per month, making it one of the most expensive cities to rent in the U.S. That's a 19% increase in just 24 months, fueled by limited housing inventory and an intense demand from students, tech workers, and high-income professionals. The city's compact geography and zoning restrictions have only made things worse, with many neighborhoods resistant to multifamily or affordable housing developments. What's particularly alarming is that more than 54% of Boston renters are now cost-burdened, spending over 30% of their income on rent. In neighborhoods like South Boston, Roxbury, and Jamaica Plain, families who have lived there for generations are being priced out. Gentrification, driven by luxury condo conversions and soaring property taxes, has displaced thousands. At the same time, the wait list for affordable housing has ballooned to over 42,000 applicants, many waiting years with no relief in sight. Boston is also battling a growing homelessness crisis. Shelters are overflowing, and estimates suggest over 6,500 people are experiencing homelessness across the metro area, with hundreds sleeping unsheltered each night. The city has expanded its supportive housing programs and winter shelters, but it's not enough to meet the swelling demand. Even professionals aren't immune. Teachers, firefighters, and healthcare workers increasingly commute from outside the city, sometimes up to 90 minutes, just to afford a place to live. Meanwhile, renters face bidding wars and application fees for cramped apartments with outdated amenities. For a city that prides itself on academic and economic leadership, Boston's housing crisis is a glaring contradiction. If left unchecked, the city's affordability woes could undermine the very diversity and vibrancy that make Boston so special. Without fast-track development, stronger tenant protections, and smarter zoning, the Athens of America risks becoming a gated enclave for the wealthy. Number 4. Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix has long been a haven for affordable living, but that reputation is quickly evaporating under the pressure of exploding rents and rising homelessness. As of 2025, the average rent in Phoenix has surged to $2,130, up nearly 30% from just 3 years ago. That kind of spike is catastrophic for a city where median household income hovers around $67,000. In fact, nearly 45% of renters now spend more than 35% of their income on housing, putting them at constant risk of displacement. Phoenix has become ground zero for America's eviction epidemic. The city routinely sees over 8,000 eviction filings per month, one of the highest rates in the country. Contributing factors include lax tenant protection laws, aggressive landlords capitalizing on low vacancy rates, and a flood of out-of-state investors who purchased properties during the pandemic-era boom. Many of these investors are now raising rents by 25 to 50% in a single lease cycle. The result is a visible rise in homelessness. Estimates place Phoenix's homeless population above 9,500 people, with encampments sprawling across city parks, sidewalks, and canal banks. The city's scorching summers make these conditions especially dangerous. Multiple deaths from heat exposure are recorded each year among the unhoused population. Newcomers from California, Oregon, and Colorado have also poured into Phoenix, attracted by jobs and weather. But their higher income levels have priced out locals, fueling resentment and further inflating rents. Meanwhile, new housing construction is booming, but it's mostly luxury units, not affordable stock. Affordable housing projects remain bogged down by permitting delays, NIMBY opposition, and funding gaps. Public officials have introduced rental assistance programs and eviction diversion efforts, but the pace is glacial compared to the rising tide of need. Phoenix is no longer the budget-friendly desert dream it once was. Without significant policy shifts and tenant protections, it could cement its place as one of the most volatile housing markets in America. Number 3. San Francisco, California. San Francisco has long been the poster child for America's urban housing crisis, and in 2025, the problem has only intensified. With average rents now hovering around $3,370 per month, the city remains one of the priciest rental markets in the country. For a one-bedroom unit in the Mission, Hayes Valley, or SoMa, prices can easily surpass $4,000 a month. Yet despite its economic clout and tech dominance, San Francisco has failed to provide adequate housing for its diverse population, creating a severe and visible imbalance. The city's geography, limited land, and aggressive zoning restrictions have choked new housing supply. For every luxury condo built, thousands of residents still fight for aging rent-controlled units. Over 65% of renters in SF are cost-burdened, and eviction notices are on the rise as pandemic protections expire. Many middle-income workers, including nurses, hospitality workers, and even teachers, are forced to commute from cities like Vallejo, Stockton, or even Sacramento just to make ends meet. Perhaps most glaring is the city's homeless crisis. Estimates suggest more than 8,000 individuals are unhoused, and over 60% are unsheltered, making San Francisco's per capita homelessness among the highest in the nation. The problem has spread from the Tenderloin to tourist areas like Market Street and Civic Center. Even SFO Airport reported a near doubling of homeless individuals taking shelter in terminals and trains. City efforts, including navigation centers and Proposition C-funded services, have helped some, but progress is slow. Tent encampments remain a political flashpoint, and public safety concerns are driving residents and businesses away. While tech investors and startups may still view San Francisco as a crown jewel, the working class sees it as a battleground for rent, stability, and dignity. Without sweeping zoning reforms and a surge in affordable housing, San Francisco's housing gridlock will only deepen. Number 2. Los Angeles, California. Los Angeles, with its palm-lined streets and entertainment mystique, paints a picture of California dreaming. But for millions of renters, the reality is anything but. In 2025, the median rent in Los Angeles County has climbed to a staggering $3,200, with many one-bedroom apartments in areas like Santa Monica and West Hollywood priced closer to $3,800 or more. Despite wage gains in the entertainment and tech industries, many Angelenos are finding themselves priced out of the very city they've called home for generations. More than 58% of renters in Los Angeles are severely cost-burdened, spending over half of their monthly income on rent. This rent crunch has pushed lower and middle-income families to the brink. Many residents have been forced to live with multiple roommates, move further inland, or leave California altogether. Meanwhile, evictions have surged, especially in the wake of expiring pandemic-era protections. In neighborhoods like Boyle Heights, South LA, and Koreatown, longtime residents are being displaced by gentrification and aggressive redevelopment. But nowhere is LA's housing failure more visible than in its homelessness crisis. As of 2025, more than 75,000 people are unhoused across Los Angeles County, the largest homeless population in the U.S. Tent encampments line sidewalks, freeways, and parks. Vehicles converted into homes are a common sight. Wildfires, rising housing costs, and the end of emergency rental assistance have all contributed to this humanitarian emergency. The city has made high-profile efforts, like inside-safe hotel programs and permanent supportive housing initiatives. But progress remains uneven. Many shelters are full, and wait lists are long. Housing development is sluggish, with affordable projects bogged down in red tape and neighborhood opposition. For a city of its size and wealth, Los Angeles is facing a housing disaster of epic proportions. If not aggressively tackled, the gap between rich and poor may soon be irreparable. Number 1. New York City, New York. New York City, the nation's largest and most iconic metropolis, is now ground zero for America's housing crisis. In 2025, median rent in Manhattan has exploded to a record-high $4,625 per month, while outer boroughs like Brooklyn and Queens have also seen double-digit rent hikes year over year. Even modest apartments often spark bidding wars, some with over 10 applicants per unit. Simply put, average New Yorkers are being priced out of their own city. Over 61% of renters in NYC are cost-burdened, spending more than 30% of their income on rent. For working-class residents in the Bronx, Harlem, and parts of Queens, that number jumps above 70%. The end of pandemic-era rental protections, combined with inflated demand and a limited housing supply, has led to a dramatic spike in evictions. And landlords, eager to cash in, are rapidly converting rent-stabilized units to market rate wherever possible. Meanwhile, the homelessness crisis has reached a historic peak. In 2024 alone, NYC saw a 53% increase in homelessness, fueled in large part by the influx of migrants, economic strain, and the housing shortage. Today, the city shelters nearly 140,000 individuals, including thousands of families and children. Public shelters are overwhelmed, leading many to sleep in subways, parks, or on sidewalks. Despite a massive budget dedicated to housing and social services, bureaucratic delays and insufficient affordable development continue to hamper progress. Projects under the City of Yes zoning reform initiative remain slow to launch. Even mayor-backed rent freezes on rent-stabilized apartments haven't alleviated the fundamental supply-demand crisis. New York's charm, culture, and opportunity are undeniable, but for many, it's becoming a city of survival rather than dreams. Unless drastic action is taken to expand affordable housing, protect tenants, and stabilize rents, New York risks becoming a tale of two cities, one for the elite and another for the struggling majority clinging to hope beneath the skyline.